And to go deeper on the importance of this year's BRICS summit, we are joined by U.S. human rights and labor rights lawyer Dan Kovalik. Hello, Dan. Welcome to From the South.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Dan, all is ready for the summit to begin in a couple of hours. This summit in particular comes in a key moment in the international arena. All eyes are on what the BRICS 2024 summit can produce. So what can we expect and how important is this year's summit?
Well, it's very important. I mean, I think the world is waiting, for the expansion of this multipolar world, of another pole to essentially protect the rest of the world from the West and the United States. There's some hope that eventually a new currency will come out of this to compete with the US dollar. I guess Putin has signaled that that won't come at this meeting, but I think eventually that will come. And I think the one thing I understand will come out of this is that Venezuela will be admitted as a full partner of BRICS.
Growth of the BRICS format is one of the main topics in this year. Earlier this year, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates joined the bloc. Other countries, as you were saying, have expressed their readiness, like Venezuela, Cuba, and many others. So the question is, how can BRICS, as it continues to grow, bring about that multipolar world with enhanced cooperation and win-win trade among the peoples of the world?
Well, I think the main thing they can do is to try to protect countries from U.S. sanctions. Right now, the U.S. has 30% of the world's population under sanctions. And the only way it's able to do that is through its dominance of the world economy, through the dominance of the US dollar. And so I think BRICS will have to come up with a new currency that will be able to compete with the US dollar so countries don't have to depend on the dollar, and therefore the sanctions won't hurt as much. And of course, BRICS will open up new paths of trade, again, that will allow countries to be able to avoid the worst of the sanctions.
Just earlier today, the President Putin had a meeting with the New Development Bank President Dilma Rousseff, and they were talking about enhancing these transactions in national currencies and in the idea of creating a new currency for BRICS countries to trade in for the benefit of the nation. How could this currency be? How would it work?
Well, I'm not an economist, so I'm not exactly sure how it will work, but I think ultimately if you get buy-in from all these countries, which represent, I think they'll end up representing a majority of the world's population. I mean, when you have China and India alone, you have a huge percentage of the world's population. So if you have all these countries buy into a new currency, and if that currency is backed by something, by oil, for example, or gold, I think that they would have a real chance to compete with the US dollar, which is frankly backed on nothing but the full faith and credit clause of the US Constitution. And I think people are realizing they can't really put faith in the dollar because, again, it's based on nothing. And the US is so far in debt that the dollar, again, once there's an alternative to it, I think the dollar will collapse.
Another important topic coming into the table in this summit, aside from the growth of the BRICS, is also the Israeli ongoing aggressions against the peoples of the Middle East. And what role can BRICS play to bring an end to the Tel Aviv's expansionist policies and secure peace and stability in the Middle Eastern region?
Well, again, when you have key members of BRICS like Russia, China, Iran, you have a bloc that really could stop this genocide if they wanted to. And that might require a military intervention of some kind. And, Russia's already intervened in Syria to end that dirty war that the West started in 2011. And I think, Putin's been making noise that if Israel keeps going farther into Lebanon, and certainly if it goes into Syria, that they will have Russia to contend to. So I do think this represents a bloc that could end this war.
Also high interest in the Ukraine crisis. Many nations are talking about how to bring an end through a negotiated process. President Putin himself said that he is willing to negotiate with Ukraine if it's done in the framework of the document drawn up in Turkey, where Ukraine will declare itself neutral and will reduce its armaments and will, of course, not join NATO. So do you think, how could this process happen in this BRICS summit? What can come out of this?
Well, first of all, we have to remember there was a deal that seemed that both sides could live with back in March of 2022, meaning, within about a month of the war starting, frankly, in which Ukraine could have kept all of the land it had prior to the special military operations beginning in February of 2022. And the US and UK intervened to kill that peace deal. So obviously peace is possible, though I think by now it's not going to be on terms that were offered then. I don't think they're going to be able to get back those 4 voted to go with Russia. But, certainly, again, I think the countries that are in BRICS and the BRICS alliance can play a big role in helping negotiate a peace deal.
Thank you, Dan, for your time hearing from the South.
Thank you.
No, it's our pleasure. We're going to stay tuned with everything that happens on BRICS, and we're going to be reporting here from the South.